welcome, Henry, to the Blues Matters chat.
Hey, how's it going? It's really nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Great, well, thank you for agreeing to come on. I listened to the album the day before and yesterday as well. I think it's superb. Cruel
Oh, thanks.
Intentions is a superb album. So tell me about it. When did you start recording and when did you start writing?
Mate, well, I mean, like after the last album cycle, I'm pretty prolific, really. Like when I get so excited about what we're working on or like the shows and the tours that we're doing and the reception of our music to our fans that I kind of am always writing and I'm kind of always sort of getting ready for the next chapter of the band, as it were. So when we started finishing the Promised Land tour, I was so excited by how it had all gone. I just sort of felt really inspired to kind of just keep that momentum going, really. And I do pretty much all the songwriting in the band. And we got back off the road and I just sat about just laying down ideas for new songs. And you get into this weird habit of forgetting, even though you've just done it the last however many times, you forget how you've done it in the past. So you start going like, am I taking too long doing this? Was the last album a bit more natural? Am I struggling? Is this good? You start to question yourself a little bit. But really, in the grand scheme of things, this record kind of fell together quite quickly because I felt like the songs they kind of came out of me very naturally. And I'm really, really happy with, I remember sitting back and listening to the demos before we actually went to record it. And I remember going like, hang on a second, how did I get from there to here? It was quite an incredible thing. You forget the journey. You remember the start and you're at the end. And then obviously after that, you actually have to go and record it, which I love songwriting. It's what I do. It's my biggest passion in life, but I'm not very good in the studio because I have such bad ADHD and I just want to hear it finished. So
Yeah.
I very much was, I get a bit itchy feet and I just want to get it done. And I want to just work until I literally fall on my knees and I can't work anymore. And I sometimes forget that other people don't work like that. So, yeah, but the recording process basically began in July and we like to record under not too much stress. So we don't try and just go in and do it all, in a week or anything like that. Especially when it comes to my vocals, I feel like if I want to sing the best I can, I have to be quite comfortable and confident. So we were kind of, we take our time, we do 3 days on and then we'd have, we'd all go back to work or whatever. And then we come back and we do another 3 days. So we kind of wrapped it all up in September. And that was when it was totally finally done. And then the cycle kicked off in November last year. And here we are in what is soon to be May. And it comes out in like just under a month. So it's crazy.
So you have all that sort of time off, and then all of a sudden it's like a roller coaster. You get back on again, and it's full tilt, I guess.
Absolutely. It's a weird period between finishing recording and then starting the campaign because, and rightly so, fans want new music. They always want new music. We're all greedy in some way when it comes to our favorite bands and artists. And I guess after the last album cycle, we went out and we did some shows and they were good shows. And, we had some new guys in the band that we wanted to get out there and really feel comfortable playing together. But we knew that the fans had seen the last tour and they wanted new music. So you're in this kind of limbo period where you're like, we want to play, but we can't go out and play because we need something to promote. And so you find yourself kind of becoming the social media band, as I call it, which I hate, but it's very important. And you're promoting your record and you're doing all of the content that you need to do, but you're also doing it from the comfort of your own home, or as far as you get to playing is rehearsing what will be your next tour or anything like that, your new show. So when January rolled around and the album's cycle's kicking off, the demand to see us back out on the road kind of kicks off again. And that's really humbling and encouraging because that the momentum's going to pick up basically.
Yeah. So have you tried some of the songs from the album out on on audiences already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been playing all the singles, and actually, we love the singles, which is why they're the singles on the new record, but we obviously love, I mean, I love all the tracks on this new album. There's not I don't think there's a single filler track, but that's my opinion, obviously. I'm biased.
You're
But
allowed to be biased.
I am, because they're all my babies, really. But I'm very much, I love some of the deep cuts on the album. So there was a collective track on this record called "Better Luck Next Time" that we all just were like, we really want to play it. So we kind of debuted it, and we rehearsed it and debuted it. And first gig, you're a bit like, okay, this is a bit seat of the pants, but then after a while, and this is the same with playing the new stuff anyway, you start to feel more comfortable. And especially as a vocalist, you have to learn how to sing it live properly, because it's not the same as, even though we try and do as many big live takes of the vocals in the studio to capture the magic. Your breathing's different. I'm playing guitar at the same time. You have to, you have to kind of figure out where it sits comfortably for you live. So that's always a bit of a challenge, but a fun one. And I'm really happy with, obviously, how they're being received and how we're playing them. And yeah, we just couldn't be happier, really, at the moment.
Great. I mean, I listened to the album, and obviously I made notes to write up the review. And I think the interaction between you and Robbie Blake, the main guitarist, is
Yeah.
superb.
Oh,
Your
thank
voice and his playing, it just gels so well.
Yeah, I think Robbie comes from a completely different style of guitar playing to me. Primarily, first, both of us are guitar players, and I always considered myself a guitar player and then a singer. But obviously, I'm fortunate enough that, being the front man, you have to kind of own the front man role, which I'm not going to lie, I do love. But he really owns that kind of lead guitar player role, and his style of playing is so unique. He comes from a very kind of very dirty blues. All his favorite players are old school blues players. And, and that is, and that combined with my style of playing, which is a bit more rock guitar, we have this amazing playoff when we play together. And we really play off each other, and you can really hear and identify who's playing at what time. And I also just think that his style of playing really accompanies my style of singing, much like, the Joe Perry and Steven Tyler. It's very much an identifiable sound for both of them, and that's what helps create that sound. And I would say that we have our own version of that in this band as well.
That's great. I mean, obviously blues is my first love, and to know that he's coming from a blues background,
Oh yeah,
idolize the blues guitarist, you hear that on the record. Even though it's
totally.
like more of a rockier album, you can still hear the
I
blues
mean,
influences.
absolutely. Now, like for me, obviously, our style of rock and roll, which is very retro 70s kind of rock, it stems all from the blues. Everything that we do stems from blues guitar players, and even the later stuff. So, like for instance, one of my idols is Paul Kossoff from the band Free.
Free,
And
yeah.
again, as I know they're a rock band, but it's quintessentially blues guitar, but you've just got a Marshall and you've cranked it ear
Mhm.
bleedingly loud. And Robbie's sort of similar. We have similar kind of blues guitar players that we absolutely idolize. I love Muddy Waters, and Robbie loves Albert King and people like this. He really likes the guitar players from Chicago and the jump blues sound. And what I love about it, as well as the guitar players, is I just love a lot of the orchestration that some of these players had. They had a horn section, they had amazing backing singers. You listen to Freddie King, and he's got like a song like Going Down.
Going down,
For
yeah.
me, that's a rock song with a great like piano riff,
Mm.
and but it's just it's like the first kind of soiree into rock for that time. You take that and you transport it into the modern day with what we're doing. A lot of what we're doing and the ideas that we have, if you played it in that style, it would just be a blues track.
Yeah, yeah. I found, made a note. To me, it sounds a really fun, uplifting album.
Yeah.
There's no serious, not, how can I, it's not a serious album. It's just a great, fun, uplifting album. Is that what you wanted it to sound like?
I think for us, this band is all about, escapism and having fun and being in love with the music. We do not want to write songs that are, don't get me wrong, we want to tap into personal and emotive feelings, love and passion and things that might make you stop and think. But we're not a political band. We're not anything like that. We want to write songs that you can stick on at a barbecue, at a party, or in the car, and you just, for however long you're listening to it, you're just taken away to a place where you're like, I'm in rock and roll euphoria. And that is kind of what we wanted to do. I think a perfect example of that encapsulates that on this record is the song Waiting on a Miracle. For me, that's the style of band we want to be. It's uplifting, sing along, classic rock. You've got your horns, you've got your solos, you've got the big melodies. And as a songwriter, that's what I try and kind of aim for with the Karma Effect. We're heavily inspired by bands like Aerosmith and that kind of sound, I suppose. And those bands, you cannot help but want to dance. And that's kind of how I want the Karma Effect to be perceived. Is that we're a balls out rock band, but our music is groovy and it's fun, and that's kind of where we want to sit with our music.
Good. Well, I'm glad I thought that, because that's how it came across, and I'm glad I've said the right thing, basically.
Yeah. And there's plenty of that on the record.
Quintessentially a 70s, to me, a 70s rock blues influenced album. And I must admit, I think your vocals reminded me, if you don't mind me saying so, of like Bon Scott and Brian Johnson.
Wow, thank you. That's
what it came through to me as.
Thank you. Well, I'm a diehard AC/DC fan. I mean, both singers. I mean, for me, more Bon Scott than Brian Johnson. But I think he had one of the most powerful voices I've ever heard. Yet he did it so effortlessly, and he looked so effortless doing it as well. So that's a huge compliment. And I think for me, vocal wise, I've always looked at singers like, I've obviously mentioned Steven Tyler, who I think is one of the most incredible singers of all time. But then there's people like Steve Marriott from Humble Pie, who I just think has this insanely delicious blues voice, but with the rasp that and I guess like Rod Stewart in the Faces as well. And then you've got your big guns like Robert Plant and then Freddie Mercury and all of these people that I've idolized through all my musical kind of career. But for me, that having that kind of bluesy soul is really, really important, and making sure that comes through is of utmost importance.
Well, it certainly came through for me. And you just mentioned Rod Stewart, in the late 60s, Rod Stewart, and when he was with the Faces and when he was with Jeff Beck, that's the type of album that Cruel Intentions reminds me of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's also, we set out with an intention, pardon the pun, to, for it to kind of be that way. And I think some of the one thing I'll say on this particular record is I think there is a slightly darker undertone lyrically, which is just, we wanted something maybe a little bit more sexy and a little less maybe a bit more serious in places and a little less tongue in cheek. But as I said, the thing that we've loved about all of the bands that I've just mentioned is there is an element of they don't take themselves too seriously, and and that's really important. If it's a great song, it's a great song. And I've always kind of aimed for that, I would say.
Yeah. So how did you guys all get together? How did you all meet?
Yeah, well, Robbie and I obviously started this band about 5 years ago, and we set out on this incredible journey with some of the other guys. We put out 2 amazing records between 2020 and 2024. We had an insanely good run with what we were doing, but it gets to that time where you're like, stuff gets quite serious and it gets real. The offers get bigger, the time away from family gets longer, the commitments get bigger as well. And I just think that it was time to shake it up a bit and to work out, who really wanted to do it and who didn't. So, you know, Robbie and I are the original two. And then we've got Alan Taylor on drums, and then Nathan Keevil on bass, and Tom Pitt on key. And they've come into the fold, and they've basically, you know, we got to this point where we'd reached the doorway, and it was time to take a step through that doorway into the next kind of onto the next level, as it were. You know, so as this particular incarnation of the group, we've been now working together for just over a year, and the band's got some really deep history, and the guys really respect that. And, you know, Nathan, the bass player, has been with us since the start as a kind of silent part of our team, helping us out on the road. And he's an incredible musician of his own right. So for him, it was all super familiar. And then, yeah, like I said, they understand the history of the band, and they want to add their stamp to what we're doing. And yeah, like here we are, sort of like 5 years later. We had some great success early on, which helped us have this kind of post-COVID. Everybody was desperate for new music, and we were one of those bands that had managed to kind of make it work. So we kind of had a little bit of a leg up on other bands, and yeah, we got a cool fan base together, and from there we were able to kind of then sort of hit the road and just kind of channel that to the point of where we are now.
Cool. Yeah, well, it's been a relative, you know, it's not been a long career, but you've had 3 great albums, you know, and you've built a fan base. So what's next for the band?
I think, yeah, the big thing for us right now is obviously the record is done, and you know, we're obviously putting it out in on the 15th of May. We've got some shows now, like sporadically throughout the summer, some in Europe, and then some in the UK, headline and support. And then really we're just sort of waiting for it to kick off when we hit the road in the autumn, when we're going to do a big headline tour of the UK. And we can't wait for that. To get out and sort of really hit the UK scene really hard one more time. And then just into next year, really, it's just all about playing and doing as much as we can.
Do you really enjoy the live performances? Is it something that you really look forward to?
This band is a live band, 100%. I could happily not record another album for the rest of my life and just play songs live to audiences. You know, I thrive off the energy. My vocal performance, my guitar performance is all, you know, some of the best nights I've ever had doing any of that has just been because of the energy and the adrenaline of playing to people. And, you know, we really, really pride ourselves on our live show. And I make a big point of calling it a show. Well, it is a show. It's not, you don't go and see the Karma Effect. It's not just a gig. It's a, you know, we've always
an event.
We've always said we want to try and create a stadium show in a club or a theatre or an academy venue or whatever. You know, it's got segues, it's got changes, it's got lighting cues, it's got, you know, everything that you would expect from your favourite stadium rock band. We've gone, how can we do that? Because we want it to be something where people go, this is just worth every penny of our money to come and see these guys because they give it 110% every time.
Great. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
If you're going out with that mentality, it's going to rub off on the crowd every time.
Absolutely, 100%.
So, do you think a live album could be in the offing soon?
I would love to do a live album. You know, I think it would give people the opportunity to just hear the you know, what this band at its core really is. And yeah, I would say that it's something that I am actively pushing for. Whether or not I get it, I don't know. But I know the guys in the band feel the same. Sadly, we're not the ones in charge. Yeah, I mean, if we could do it, I'd do it tomorrow, or I'd do it, whenever our next gig is. And I'm hoping that is what we'll do. What I would quite like to do is I'd like to do it where you take different tracks from different nights of different shows on a tour.
Yeah, that'd be
wherever you are. And I think that would be really cool for us.
That's a great idea, yeah. So you get a different feeling from each, rather than just recording one night.
Absolutely. I'd like to do it like the best nights or the best songs from a UK tour. One's in Glasgow, one's in Plymouth, one's in London. Do you know what I mean? And just get a real taste of what this band is like as a band on the road.
Okay, last question, which may be a bit difficult. If you could have written one song, which would you have chosen? One song from anybody. If you could just go, I wished I'd written that. What would you choose?
Well, you see, that is a difficult question. And the songs that I come at this from a songwriter. So they're not necessarily rock songs or blues songs or anything like that. But I try and identify songs that I believe that encapsulate certain feelings and emotions. And that there's two songs that I have, and I've always said these two songs. The first song that I think is, in my humble opinion, perfect from start to finish, lyrically, guitar playing, vocally, everything, would be Boys of Summer by Don Henley.
Great, great.
I think that song has a certain melancholy feeling that I can't, every time I hear it, first of all, I can't skip it. I have to listen to it, but it taps into something within me that I can't understand what it is that it does to me. And I think that is one of the most incredible, that's one of the most incredible things that a songwriter, as a songwriter, that you can do to somebody, is you can create something that it's so important to them, but they don't quite understand what it is that they feel, but they feel something so strongly. So there's that one. And then this is, again, my second track is really left field again, but I find it an incredible sonic journey with an incredible soundscape on an incredible album as well, which again is quite a melancholy song. And it's also a wonderful pop song as well. That would be With or Without You by You.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that the lyrical melody, the build of the song, the guitar playing, the simplicity, I think it's a magical piece of music. Again, it's one of those songs that I don't understand what it is about it, but it's something that you go, I wish I'd written that. That is an incredible bit of music. But then obviously to caveat all that, I have so many songs, that I'd wish I'd written. I wish I'd written Same Old Song and Dance by Aerosmith, because that is such a good song, or Last Child, or I wish I'd written Black Coffee by the Humble Pie. There's and I wish I wish I'd written Maggie May. That's a big one. I wish I'd written Maggie May by Rod Stewart, because it's an incredible song. But those two songs that I mentioned first, for me, it just comes from a place of emotion, and you're like, I don't know what this is doing to me, but it's doing something.
That's the only explanation you need. It does something to me. I've actually got Boys of Summer on a CD in my car now. Oh, you've picked one of my favourites.
I mean, I'm a huge Don Henley fan. I'm a die-hard Eagles fan.
Yeah.
I obviously, his voice and his songwriting is amazing. As a guitar player, obviously, I love Mike Campbell from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. He played the guitar on Boys of Summer, so everything about that song to me is just an incredible.
And you mentioned Black Coffee and Humble Pie Steamboat. It is a superb song. I'd throw another one in, but I also love the version by Beth Hart and Joe Bonamassa. I absolutely adore that version.
I mean,
people say, "Oh no, it's nowhere." And I went, "No, I just think it's amazing."
Beth Hart is a force of nature with that vocal, and Joe Bonamassa is one of my biggest guitar inspirations. I've learned a lot of his style and technique and applied it to my playing. I come at things as a songwriter, but obviously I'm also a widdly guitar player that I love playing. I love playing the blues, and I love playing blues rock. So he loves my favorite guitar players like Paul Kossoff. And his whole kind of vibe. I love Peter Frampton as well. So, all of these kind of guitar players are so important in my playing. And Joe Bonamassa, aside from all the old blues guys, also has a lot of that stuff in his playing that I've then taken. So
I'll be seeing him in a couple of weeks at the Royal Albert Hall in London.
No, I'm jealous I'm not going. I can't go, so I'm annoyed. You'll have to tell me how it is.
Hopefully I'll bump into him and have a chat with him, and I'll tell him what you said about him.
I'd love that.
he's a really nice guy. I've interviewed him a few times. He's very humble, very down to earth guy as well. And he is one of my favourite guitarists.
And I mean, I think he gets a lot of stick for being, you know, that people call it, you know, that kind of like corporate blues, which I think is really unfair, because I think he's just incredibly talented. And I think one of the most prolific songwriters I know. He's got an incredible voice, which really complements his style of playing. I love that he can turn his hand to any type of blues, but then obviously be in a hard rock band like Black Country Communion, or he can write a hard blues rock song like Mountain Climbing or something like that, or Ballad of John Henry. And these songs are just really great rock blues songs. And I think it's fair that he sometimes gets a bit pigeonholed like that.
I totally agree. An
incredible talent.
Yeah. Well, we'll finish on a mutual admiration of Joe Bonamassa. Thank you so much, Henry, for spending time and chatting to me. Once again, I think the album's great. Hopefully in the autumn, I'll be able to come and catch a show.
Yeah, please do. We'd love to see you. I'd love to meet you in person as well, mate.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, and have a fantastic weekend. If it's nice and sunny where you are, I hope
it is nice and sunny. Yeah, it is. Okay, bye-bye.
Take care now.